Today I will talk about parameter stability. It is quite frustrating that after doing all the testing, after finding your best model, in the end it's very likely that over time your estimation might change. So to get started, if you look at the following problem where we have a dependent variable yt, and we have a set of independent variables. So after estimating your model, it is possible that these parameters might change over time. This matters in particular in the context of forecasting. So when you go back to the previous video on model specification, we attempted to link the stock market return to macroeconomic shocks. Now, of course, it would be pretty exciting to have this relationship confirmed, which we actually achieved to some extent. But then the issue arises, even if you have a good model fit at the moment, you don't know how this might behave going forward. I want to develop some code in Stata that basically estimates beta 1. So basically what I do is I obtain a beta 1 hat, so an estimate of this beta 1 for certain time periods. So I have a starting point and I have an end point somewhere here, say, starting maybe from the first day and going up to day, say, 31. So you have 30 days or months in our case actually, if you have monthly data. So 30 months of observations. And then what you do is you move it by 1 month. So that means the next estimation then runs from maybe somewhere here, this would be day 2 to 32. So these periods are overlapping. I will estimate for these overlapping periods the coefficients. And then I want to plot these coefficients and see how they change over time. And I will display how this parameter changes. You would expect a bit of change up and down, some random change. What you should not see is something like this. So a complete change of sign, for instance, or a massive change of the magnitude of impact. So this here would indicate that there is a so-called structural break going on. Okay, so we are back in Stata. I reuse our work we have done for model specification. So this is the previous do file. Again, you find all the do files, all the code, all the data sets, all the slides on GitHub. So I'm just now running this one more time, and it just goes through our model specification, which we discussed in the previous video. And we identified model E as the preferred model based on the Bayesian information criterion. Good, so now what we do is we take this model and re-estimate the model for different sub-samples. So we take this model, and first what you note is you don't have to do any restriction to a sample, because for the specification part we argue we have to maintain the same sample, otherwise we compare apples and oranges. So what I want to do is I want to really do it step by step so that you see exactly how the code works. I run this regression model, and then I want to obtain the coefficients. When you look at the Stata commands, and you just look at the regression commands, you see way below how information is stored. So what we are after is stored in here, the coefficient vector. So we need access to this coefficient vector, which contains our slope coefficient, the one we are interested in. And you see it's stored in a matrix called B. So after running your regression, I use the following matrix. So this goes now into the matrix environment, and I will talk about this a bit more in a second. I call this matrix B is equal to get in brackets underscore B. And then I want to have a look at this matrix matrix list B. So I just now run this. I explain this in a minute. The thing in Stata is you have two different dimensions, so to speak. So one dimension is your variables. Yeah? So when you also use your browse command and you open your data set, all of these are different columns that contain these variables. So that's the main dimension we always have worked in. The other dimension which you don't obviously see is your matrix environment. Yeah? So for instance, here we create a matrix B which obtains an estimate from your regression model. Matrix list shows this matrix. So this is a bit odd in the beginning when you work in Stata, that you have this matrix environment and you have variables, and you can move between the two, which we actually will do in a minute. So what we want to focus on is the oil price effect. So this is this coefficient here, which is in this position. Now when you look at this output, it states B in rectangular brackets 1, 3. Now this is typical notation for so-called arrays in programming, or a matrix in linear algebra. The first number gives you the number of rows, the second one is the number of columns. So this is 1 row, 3 columns. So that's a so-called row vector. In Stata, indexing works differently from Python. So if you come from Python, it will always kind of confuse you, because you might know in Python indexing starts from 0. In Stata it doesn't, it starts from 1. Yeah, so this coefficient here would be in position 1, 1, first row, first column. This coefficient, the one we want, is in column 2, so it would be 1, 2. So to obtain this, this particular coefficient, we have to do the following. So I go back into the do file and I use now matrix, I call this A, whatever you want to call it. And I use B, and this is 1, 2, which refers to my second column. Yeah? You don't have to do any spaces in between. Sometimes I do this, it's just easier to read. So I'm executing that. And again, I do a matrix list A. I just want to have a look at this, and you see now you have exactly this coefficient. Now the thing is, now it's stored in this matrix environment. So if you actually want to see it, if you want to later, for instance, plot this, you need to move it into the variable environment. And this can be achieved using the svmat command. And again, it's a new command. I don't think that I spoke about this before. It moves a matrix into a variable. Okay, so svmat A refers to the matrix. I give it then a name. I just keep it simple. I name it A, and we just see what happens. Yeah. And now you see here a new variable emerged. Funny enough, it's named A1. So this is kind of a funny thing in Stata. It adds 1 to it for whatever peculiar reason. So now you have here in the first position the coefficient. Good. So that's a useful start. So now we want to do the same for these overlapping time periods. So I just now talk you through the logic. We run it again and again for different time periods. We get our coefficient, we move the coefficient into this variable, it will pop up in the first position. But then we want to build up a new variable, which I might call whatever I want to call this beta or oil coefficient, where the position of this coefficient coincides with a point in time. And what I will do is I look at these overlapping periods and I take the midpoint. Yes, if we take 30 observations, the midpoint would be at 15, for instance. But you can, it's your choice. You can also have it at the beginning of a period or end of a period. It doesn't really matter. The issue is that when you look at A1, it only has an observation in the first row. So what we need to do first is we have to get it all filled up, and there are different ways to fill it up. So one way to fill it up, and this is the way I will use, is I will use the egen command and use the maximum. So I can do something like this. So I use the a1 variable and take the maximum, which will create, as you can see, this variable where every entry is the same. Yeah, so it just makes sure that all these missing values are replaced. So this is one way to do it. It's not the only way. There are other ways to do it. And then what I will do is I will look at the right point in time, take this coefficient, move it over, and construct a new variable which contains these time-varying coefficients. So that is the idea in short. Good, so that's the principle. I now start dropping these variables because it will otherwise cause problems, because I want to use the same terms later in my loop. So the first thing is I have an output vector. I just call this oil, and I just want to initially have it all as missing. Yes, I already build it up. It's an empty vessel, because you can't use generate inside loops, because generate always wants to create a new variable. So once you generate oil, it will exist, so it would complain. So to replace values, you have to use the replace command. Now let's go into a loop in Stata. So it's 4 values, and I use the index I. I start here at 0 and I go up to 307. And I use wavy brackets open and closed. The indentation is not needed in Stata, but I still like to keep it, just to keep it tidy. How did I come up with 307? So when you go back to the data and you look at your time dimension, you see it goes up to 337. Yeah, so if I take 30 observations, I can go up to 307, and then I add 30 to it to go to the max. So that's the idea. This is how I ended up with this particular range. Good, so what I then do is I take my regression, run this, and restrict it to a time period. So I use an if statement. If time is larger or equal to 0, and then I move it up all the time. Yeah? So I start at 0, and then I move it up. Yeah? Again, you can do it slightly differently, it doesn't really matter. I use the index I here, so this again, you have to be careful here, that's the index in the loop. In Stata you have to use these quotation marks, yeah, so this mark here is below the escape key on a normal keyboard, and this one is the standard quotation mark, single quotation mark. So you have to get used to that. In other languages it's not needed, so in Stata you need this. Then I have to add an AND here, so the if statement has 2 components. Either you have to be larger or equal to 0 plus I, and less than or equal to, and I think here we use 30 plus I. Good, so the next thing is I now simply copy paste that, so I get my matrix here, and I focus on this particular one, which is the coefficient for oil price changes. I convert this into my variable. So I have done all of that. Then we already need the next thing, which I actually moved here. This is the egen command. I used here max. I just say maybe value is better. So this will ensure that this value in the first position is replicated across all positions. And then I can drop my A1, which is created here. Otherwise, if you're under loop, it will start complaining. And then I use the replace command for my oil variable, which is here. So you replace the oil variable with the actual value if a certain time is hit. So if time is equal to, I use now 15 plus I. So here we are. Yeah, I use a kind of a midpoint. Yeah, and then again I drop value because in the next loop I use it again. So I can do this. You can also work differently, but that works. So that's quite easy because it easily translates from our previous discussion. Good, so that should do it, and then in the end we visualize, we just now plot our coefficients. So I do a line plot, oil time and have a look how this coefficient looks like. Okay, here we are. So that's my output. One thing I would fix, as you can see, you get all these regressions shown. You don't really want to see the output. So if you put a quiet in front, it suppresses the output. So what do we get out of it? We now see these coefficients for these overlapping periods. So most of the time it might look rather stable, but you see clearly at the beginning of a period something has happened. So this would be a first indication of a structural break. Yeah, so parameter stability matters a lot once you move more into forecasting, time series, and again I will do a whole course on applied time series over the summer, so you see, there's no need for you to go on holiday. You can just, watch more about applied time series modeling. It's actually much better than going to the beach, honestly speaking. Great, I see you in the next one.